Hi guys, it's Josh with Heartway Farms, and this month we are participating in the Fermented February collaboration with the Fermented Homestead. We're going to be covering a lot of different things in fermentation with sourdough and pico and a whole bunch of different recipes. So make sure you check out the collaboration with the Fermented Homestead and all the other channels that are participating. They're also doing giveaways throughout the month here, so go ahead and check those out and see what they have to offer in brushing up on your fermentation skills. I just want to go over a couple quick things that we're going to use in this recipe. It's going to be a pico lacto-fermented recipe that we use. And first of all, just some tools that would help you out with this is we got the Mason Tops fermentation kit. It includes a couple of the things that are nice to have that fit in your mason jar for your wide mouth mason jars, or you can get the one that's set up for the small mouth and the regular mouth as well. So it's got the tamper, it's got the bubbler top that allows the air to come out, and then it's got the actual weight that's going to hold down your product at the end to make sure it stays underneath the water line. So for this recipe, we're just going to cut up our pico ingredients that we will have posted below, chop it all up and get it put into here, and we'll show you how that fermentation goes. All right, so we're going to start off by cutting up 4 of our small tomatoes here. We're just going to, any tomatoes you want to get, as long as they're firm still, I just gave them a quick rinse because they're going to be in the fermentation process. And the way we like our salsa or our pico is a little more chunky versus it being real like broke down and kind of mushy. So we like to have our pieces just a little bit bigger. So we're just going to chop these up and get them into some smaller cubes, but not too small to where they get all soggy and nasty. Put it into my bowl that I'm going to mix everything together in, because we do want to keep a lot of these juices for the fermentation process, because they have to be able to sit underneath their juices. So other thing is a bell pepper here that we're going to be cutting up. And I'm sure you could use a red bell pepper or a green one or whatever you got laying around. We just decided to use a red one in this. The green one would probably give it just a little bit. That green bell pepper definitely has a distinct flavor, so use what you enjoy. So I learned a way to cut an onion a long time ago. Is you take and you cut the onion down the center. Keep it attached in the back side there. So you keep the actual root side attached. Give it a quick cut off of the front here just to clean it up. And then peel off your outer layer. There we go, down to the onion. And then just cut through on the one side here until you almost cut through to that back side. And it kind of keeps it all attached, and then you just take and cut the other way, and you end up with your nice diced onion that's not floating all over the board for you. And having a sharp knife makes a huge difference too. We like our Rada knives here, and then we also use our Warthog sharpener to keep our kitchen appliance knives or kitchen utensils sharp and all that good stuff. All right, so there's my half onion. We got a lime. Some recipes call for whole lime, other ones call for half lime. We like our lime flavor, so we're going to go ahead and put the whole one in there. Gonna take some chopped cilantro. They're gonna say about a 1/4 cup of it. I usually just take a good handful of it here, and that kind of rounds out a salsa for us. We can use the other stuff in our other recipes. don't have to get super specific with these things either. Don't be afraid just to throw in what you like in your salsa. We got jalapenos and garlic left. So let me grab some garlic here real quick. This garlic clove is a little bit smaller, so we're just gonna grab a couple of our cloves off of here. Just wanna grab a couple cloves and put it in there. All right, so the easy way to take care of the cloves real quick here before I go wash my hands up is you just cut the root end off of it here, and then you give it a quick smash, and it will pop off your skin for you. Instead of getting all those fancy tools out there, you can just do it real quick and make as little mess as possible while you're doing this. Okay, so we got our skin off of our garlic. We're just gonna chop it up real quick so that it's in some smaller chunks, just so it gets the flavor throughout the fermentation process and throughout the jar. And then the last thing I'm gonna do, because that way you don't get it all over everywhere, is you can do 1 to 2 jalapenos. You can do them with the seeds in or seeds out, depending on how spicy you want it. We're gonna do it kind of a hybrid and just do a little bit of whatever we get here. Take the chunk of the seeds out and leave a few of them in there. We don't mind having a little heat in there. And we'll end up cutting 2 jalapenos to put in this batch. The nice thing about the fermentation process is once you get it lacto-fermented the right way, which takes about 3 to 4 days to get going for you, is you can take that fermented item and put it in your fridge, because it'll slow down the fermentation process then, and it will make it shelf stable / fridge stable for anywhere from 3 to 4 months pretty safely. So it's a super good way to take your fresh items throughout the year, whether you find them on sale or whether you have them from the garden. You can ferment them up and then have them in there and use them in the fermentation process and eat them quote unquote fresh throughout the months that you don't have access to those maybe. So we got our veggies all cut up in here and ready to go. We're just gonna take our Redmond's real salt and put about 2 teaspoons in there. Plus or minus isn't gonna hurt it a little bit there. You just wanna get some salt in there because we like our salt anyhow, so maybe a little bit more than 2 teaspoons, but it's okay. And then we're gonna give it all a mix. This is where you wanna get that all mixed up, kind of get the flavors equal throughout there, depending on how many jars you're gonna put up. You know, if you get this packed into 1 quart-sized jar or a couple pint-sized jars, kind of up to you. But this will help the liquid start to break down and that fermentation process to start. We're not adding anything additional to this as far as other like products that would help it to ferment. We're relying on the lacto-fermentation, which is, you know, everything's within the plant structure that we're putting in here to break down, and this will just help it to start getting that fermentation going to get us our liquid. So we're just gonna use the packer here to kind of mush up. Once again, we don't want this to become all nasty and mushed down, but we just want to kind of get it tamped up a little bit. We want to get the liquid starting to break down. We're going to let it sit here for about 10 minutes, and then we will go ahead and get it packed into the jar for the fermentation process. All right, so we've let this sit for about 10 minutes here. We're going to go ahead and pack it into our jar here. I went ahead and cleaned my hands up, and it's easier just sometimes to use your hands and get the product into the jar that way instead of trying to use a spoon. So I'm just gonna use my hands, and then we can use, like I said, we're gonna give it a nice firm pack, but we're not gonna sit there and like try to mush it apart either. So this recipe, we've got all this product here, and it's usually fits pretty well into the jar. And any extra you got, you have some fresh pico to just go ahead and nibble on for that day. So you can see the fluid that's already starting to get generated. You don't want to add a ton of extra fluid to this because your product already has, you know, the moisture in it. So we're just going to push it down, and I don't know if you can see that there, but it's almost all the way up to the top there. So I'm just going to give it just a little bit more to top it off here. A little tamp. And I might even need to pour off just a little bit here when I push it down. Let me double check here. Just want to give this nice and firm down into here. Because really, you think about it, you want it to be pretty firm into there because you're making this and you're lacto-fermenting it. You don't want to sit there and make a bunch of small batches. It's just, you want to pack that jar up pretty full there. So we'll put just a little bit more of the veggies in there. All right. So then you go ahead and you put your weight on the top of it here, and that'll help hold down your veggies. And like I said, once you push it down there, if you've got this, it's really full on the top there, just give it a little splash off of there so that you have just a little bit of room for that moisture to move there. And then I'm going to take the top here, and this has a slit in it, so it allows the air to come out as it creates pressure in there, but it doesn't allow the outside air to go into it. So it creates kind of a one-way valve on it, or basically a one-way nipple on there. So there's a little crack in the top of this here. All right, so we've got our top on, we've got our weight on, and then we're just going to put our ring on here. We're going to tighten this down, I'd say fairly firm. Like, you don't want to just, you want the moisture to not come out the sides if it does have moisture coming out of it by chance. And then you just give your jar a rinse off, let it sit on the counter for 3 days, and then you can go ahead and taste it and see what the flavor's like for you. And then once you're done with that, you just take this top off of here, take your weight out of it, put that aside so that you can use it in the future, and then put your actual your canning lid on the top there and seal it off and put it in your fridge. And it will slow down that fermentation process and make it shelf stable inside of your fridge. All right, so it's been 5 days now, and we wanted to give you a quick update on the lacto-fermentation process of our Pico de Gallo. So it's been capped off and it's been underwater, the fermentation process here. And we're gonna get it out for a quick test here. That lid was on there. How's it smell? Smells like fermented Pico, if there's a smell for that. And we have our weight that's in here that we're going to scoop out. Get a couple scoops out here. So the texture is like kind of like a canned salsa, I guess you would say. It's not like it's super fresh as far as like a fresh Pico, because it's been sitting in the fluids. Definitely has a fermented little bit of a bite to it. Yeah, it's a different flavor than a fresh Pico for sure, but it's definitely not an off-putting flavor at all. So overall, it's nice that you can have a salsa that you can put up and keep in the fridge for 3 to 4 months without having to go through the whole canning process. And it has all the health benefits of the probiotics and the lacto-fermentation and all that stuff that's gone into breaking down the food, so it's more bioavailable for your body to use.